I'm an Uber driver, and I've seen some strange things in the 4 years that I've been doing it. This story, however, is about the scariest night of my life. It's also probably the closest I've ever come to death, and it only happened last month. I was working late at night. My city's under 1 million in population, so it's far from a bustling metropolis. It's big enough so that there's always something to do, but small enough so that it's not that hard to escape the commotion. It's a relatively short drive before you're in the country or in the forest. I really like that. I picked up a passenger at around midnight on Saturday night, so Sunday morning, I guess. He was a little younger than me. I thought so anyway. I'm 28, and I would say that this guy was 25 max. He was around 5'8", and he was clean-shaved with a buzzed head. He was thin, with big bug-like eyes. He got into my car and barely acknowledged me. That was fine with me, because I don't need to be talking all the time. His destination was in an area that I didn't know very well, and it was outside the city, in a rural part. It would be around a 30-minute drive to get there, and while I was driving, I looked at my passenger in the rearview mirror. He hardly said a word to me so far. I didn't mind the silence, but something about this guy was troubling. I'm used to all kinds of passengers. Drunk people are probably the most common, at this time of night anyway. But this guy wasn't drunk. I would know. You develop a sense for that kind of thing in my line of work. He was absorbed with his phone, and he had a look on his face that worried me. It looked like anger, almost like a manager who was angry with his workers. I wondered what he was doing, but it was none of my business, so I just kept driving. I took a turn onto a country road. The smooth pavement was replaced with rough gravel. I could feel the change immediately. There were no streetlights, but the moon was full, so I could see a fair distance ahead. I glanced at the map on my phone, and noticed that his final destination was not too far, but there was nothing out there. It was a cornfield to the right, and a forest to the left. "Hey buddy, are you sure this is right?" I asked. "We're almost there," he replied, the first full sentence I'd gotten out of him. After a few minutes, I saw a light in the distance. I wasn't sure what it was at first. As I got closer, though, I could tell that it was a truck. There was a man in the front seat. I could just barely see him. I stopped in front of the truck, and my passenger jumped out. He shut the door and jumped into the truck. I turned my car around and started heading back. I was really confused, though. Why would somebody get an Uber to a truck in the middle of nowhere? Why wouldn't his friend just pick him up? I didn't know why, but I didn't care at the time. I was about half a mile from where I'd let him out when I lost control of my car. It was like all 4 tires burst at the same time. I swerved left and right, struggling to stay on the road. Eventually, I came to a stop. I sat there in the driver's seat for a few seconds to compose myself, and then I got out to check what happened. Sure enough, all 4 of my tires were flat. There was no way that was a coincidence. Something was wrong. Without thinking, I ran into the woods, which was next to the road. I hid behind a tree and waited. After a minute or two, a pair of bright headlights appeared behind my car. It was the truck from before. Now there were 3 men sitting in the truck. One was my passenger, another was the guy who I saw before, and then there was a third. They stopped in front of my car, and when they did, I remembered that I left my phone in my car. I almost cursed out loud, but I stopped myself. By that point, I was pretty sure that I'd fallen into a trap. Those guys must have popped my tires somehow. Maybe the third guy put out a spike strip or something after I passed on my way. The 3 guys got out of the truck and walked over to my car. The front door was still open.
"Where is he?"
one of them said.
"He can't be far,"
another added. After I heard that, I feared for my life, so I pulled my head behind the tree to avoid being seen. The men continued to talk, and I could also hear them going through my car. I was kicking myself for not taking my phone. I was pretty sure there was service on my way in. I wouldn't have been surprised, though, if this was a small dead patch that they had planned. Still, it was a stupid mistake to leave it. After another few minutes, the truck drove away. I was relieved, because I thought they would try to find me. I was able to get a clear look at the truck, and all 3 men were there. This was my chance. I started walking through the woods. It would be at least an hour-long walk to get back to the main road this way, but I couldn't take the road and risk being caught. I eventually made it to the road and flagged down a car. I had the driver call 911 for me. The police met me at the side of the road, and I told them what happened. We went to a rest stop to discuss further. One of the officers called for backup, and they went to the spot where it happened. When the officer got back, one of the cops told me that there was nothing there. At first, I thought he went to the wrong place, but then he showed me some pictures that he'd taken of the scene. It was the right spot. The skid marks from my burst tires were there and everything. Those guys stole my car. I never found out why they let me go. It wouldn't have been hard for them to find me. I'm thankful to have survived, and although my tormentors have not been found yet, I still have hope.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and become a member of the Midnight Screams family. Also, don't forget to share and like with your family and friends.